later.
You can do it after we finish too.
Yeah, yeah, just do it after.
Okay,
It'll be
great.
easier.
Hi everybody. Hi there. Welcome to the Chai Tea Tai Chi web show. I'm Dane Dormio. I'm here with my good buddy Andrew Brown, the martial philosopher, and we are joined this evening or morning or whatever time of the day it is, depending on where you are, by a a very dear old friend of mine who is a champion of peace and qigong. So a a fellow qigong, a fellow chi evangelist like myself, and I am uh, uh, I'm looking forward to learning about the or hearing more about the peaceful art of Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, that so many people around the world love. So, Mitch, thanks for being here, buddy. It's great to see you.
It's a pleasure, Dane. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing about this amazing spiritual practice that I've been very privileged and honored to come into contact with at such an early age of my life, and just continue to safeguard and validate and uphold as an amazing, beautiful practice that's changed my life in every way possible. So thanks, Dane. Okay,
Wow.
for allowing me to be on your show.
All right.
Yeah. So you mentioned how this practice came into your life at an early age. What what's your origin story? How did that come about?
Well, I guess everybody has a story in life, right? Where we begun, where we are now, and where we're going. And there has to be a purpose in life for every human being. And I believe that what is a person who cannot make the world a better place, a more fulfilling place, and a more enriched place where you can inspire others and yourself as well, and maintain your health of your mind, your body, and your spirit, all aligned as one. And when I was studying international business at the University of Georgia in Atlanta about 20 years ago, in 2001, I was feeling quite depressed. I was anxious. I wasn't in my element in terms of my strength, my power. I always trusted my heart. I always followed my soul. But I wanted something deeper and more profound. So I tried yoga, I did martial arts. I was looking into all these different modalities and spiritualities and qigong practices. And one day, uh, on May 4th, May 4th, may the force, may the force with you, 2001, I there was a human rights fair and a beautiful culture fair at the University of Georgia. And for those who haven't been to Athens, Georgia, REM has come out of that, a famous band that's come out. There's many bands that have come out of Athens, Georgia, a very quaint and beautiful, eclectic and creative town, and musical town, an artistic town in the south of Georgia, in America. And I came across this particular spiritual practice, this mind and body practice, namely Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa. And I was taken away. My breath was taken away, and I felt deeply mesmerized by these exercises practiced and demonstrated by these different Chinese people, from children to young adults to the elder people, sitting there meditating. And I was very intrigued by the Chinese ancient pure music that was playing. And the gentleman later found out was the founder of Falun Dafa or Falun Gong, Mr. Lee. And they were sharing these exercises. And I was like, wow, this really, I just feel the vibration and I feel the energy of this practice. And it's just very pure. It's very relaxing. And I decided to practice and try it out. And there are 5 exercises of Falun Gong, which we'll get into later, Dan. But the first exercise is a stretching exercise where you unblocking all those energy channels. and immediately the exercise is called Buddha showing 1,000 hands. These 8 postures where you stretch the body in all directions and immediately relax. Strong stretch and immediately relax. And I felt just boom, 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 just all my energy channels bursting open, feeling alive, feeling amazingly uplifted and open. And I have never felt like this before, compared to all the other practices I've done in such a profoundly quick way and effective way. So I continued to practice. I learned the exercises off by heart. I read the books, which are completely free of charge, and I've been practicing to this day.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yes, it is. Definitely. Falun Gong is beautiful. It's a gorgeous practice. It's a really profound practice. No money involved. Practice all over the world. However, as we can get into it a little later, I know that people like to stay in bliss and the power of positive thinking is important. However, there is a truth, and it can be sometimes a heavy or dark truth that as spiritual people, we also need to confront in our lives, because that's how we grow. Through the suffering and through the pain and through the setbacks and through the tribulations in life, when we can, that's when we are tested. That's when, I guess, the universe, God, if you want to call it that, the consciousness of the Creator, the universal energy of love and togetherness, and bring us through those trying times. And what I'm trying to say is that when I came to learn about the beautifulness and the ancient profoundness of Falun Gong or Falun Dafa, I also realized a very dark secret that was against this beautiful force of nature and life force of humanity, which was the brutality and the persecution against it by the communist regime in China. And for the last 20 years, they have been persecuted by the communist regime. And that's why I'm in Vietnam right now doing work to expose this atrocity. But we can get into that a little later. We don't have to stay there, but I just have to make it clear that this practice is not free in China, that the practitioners of Falun Gong have been brutally persecuted. And honestly, as heinous as this sound, because the practice of Falun Gong targets the body and specifically the organs in such a healthy way, they have been killed for their organs, and the Chinese government has been making billions of dollars off their pure organs harvested alive forcefully in China for the last 20 years in hospitals. So,
Whoa.
Yeah, that's how
I didn't know
powerful
about the
practice.
organ thing.
Yeah,
I had heard. I knew about they had been persecuted. That's one of the things that communist governments tend to do, is stamp out
Yes.
anything that's not respectful of the state completely. So that's the terrible nature of that kind of government. But man, I didn't know about the organ harvesting. I mean, Dane, he was a kind enough person to travel to Nepal and try to teach kids how to defend themselves against organ snatchers. And that's something that's horrible, and it's done all over the world, and can't be tolerated, and you can only fight it individually. Ugh, rough.
Absolutely.
Sorry to hear that.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate, Mitch, that you mentioned that there's the dark side of there's like the Monty Python song, always look on the bright side of life. There is a bright side of life, and there is a dark side of life, and it's not good to fixate on either one, but to acknowledge that both exist. And it can be hard to really relate to something that seems really distant geographically, and the nature of the nature of government, and the nature of the Chinese government in particular, and how it relates with information, is who can say what is really going on underneath all the layers of secrecy. But the fact is that the Chinese government has has a certain record of a position with regard to human rights, and that's just the state of affairs as it is in the world right now. And and I think it's kind of it's something that in a way I think it's kind of cool and understandable in the sense that Qigong in general, Qigong as a whole has a long history in China, and um, and there have been many famous historical Qigong masters who have become very powerful, both in terms of their own abilities, their own kind of physical and energetic and healing capacities, as well as their influence and the size of their following, the size and dedication of their following. So, the fact that the one of the largest, most powerful organizations in the world, the Chinese Communist Party, would be fearful of the power of qigong is telling in a certain sense. That's how I've kind of reflected on it, is that qigong really is, at least potentially, that powerful, in terms of the ability to unlock and awaken human potential and create change. So I think there's there's a deeper layers of truth to that. And speaking of that in particular, I want to ask Mitch about you mentioned that there's 5 exercises. It's if we're talking about what is the core of Falun Gong or Falun Dafa. I love the name Falun Dafa. It sounds so pretty. I just love saying it. There are 5 exercises, so it's essentially a 5 movement qigong set, a set of 5 qigong patterns that are the core of it, as that you do kind of as a personal daily practice. And there's many types of qigong, and as you mentioned, when you were getting into this stuff, you tried a lot of different things, and you just found this one particular thing that really resonated with you. And so I'm curious, what is it about this particular set of 5 exercises that people who love it, what do they love about it so much, and what is it that can keep a person dedicated and practicing and going deeper with this practice for 20 plus years?
The first thing I can tell you is the purity of this practice. When I started to practice this, and to each his own, right? There's thousands and thousands of spiritual modalities, different types of qigongs, tai chis, mind and body practices. So whatever floats one's boat, right? Everyone is unique in their own way and beautiful in their own way. For me, the ancient Chinese spiritual discipline of Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, the moral teachings of the practice, that when Mr. Li Hongzhi, the founder of Falun Gong, introduced this to the general public, brought a whole traditional value back from the ancient world into the modern world, and taught people to be more truthful, to be more tolerant, and to be more compassionate. So at the core of Falun Gong, beside the exercises, the values of truthfulness and compassion and tolerance, considering oneself, whether you are in business, whether you are in love, whether you are in friendship, to consider other people before anything. If you are hurting somebody or harming somebody, how do you deal with truth? Are you being truthful with yourself? in times of struggle, in times of conflict, in times of pain? How do you work through those things? How do you mature and temper your will? So with with the practicing and the cultivating of the heart and the moral essence of your being through the exercises, you purify your body to the point of no illness. So in China, before it actually was spread to the West, and now it's in over 120 different countries, I believe, the Chinese people, just through word of mouth, were catching on like wildfire. And from all kinds of ailments, illnesses, people they were seeing miraculous health benefits,
Hmm.
uh, unlike they've seen before. And there have been many modalities and thousands of Qigongs out of China. With Falun Gong, this became the star Qigong practice. The communist regime and the Chinese government actually awarded Falun Gong by 1999 with proclamations and honorary awards. The, uh, the, uh, um, the, the Chinese government estimated that between 1992 and 1998, between 70 and 100 million people, more than two world wars, more than let's see, more than 12, 1 out of every 12 Chinese national citizens were practicing. And what I
Wow.
get out of it in terms of practicing, I just feel I can't explain it, everybody. It's such an amazing, beautiful experience. And
Yeah.
to each his own, like I said. But if anyone could practice,
Mhm.
they will feel their energy channels just opening up, your blood circulating better, your energy vibrations uplifted, and
Mhm.
it just you are so much more positive, and people around you feel so much more positive, and you emanate such a healthy aura and healthy feeling. You snap out of drug addiction, you snap out of any addiction, sex addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, any addiction. Your laziness goes away, you sleep better, you can conduct business better, you have much more of a clarity of thought, a focus of mind, a state of being that is that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about the Chinese government, the organs became really healthy after practicing. From years of research and medical research from the Chinese medical associations in China, doing research on the psychological and emotional and physiological benefits of Falun Gong, were blown away, unlike any other practice that they did research on, how Falun Gong in such a small period of time, when you start to practice your moral character of truthfulness, compassion, tolerance, saw how the people and the bodies became really healthy. So that's why
Mm.
one of the reasons they targeted Falun Gong for forced organ harvesting, killing them for the organs just freshly. I mean, sending hundreds and thousands of Falun Gong practitioners to state-mandated hospitals, cutting out the organs while alive, and selling the organs as the healthiest organs in the world illegally without consent for the last 20 years now. And that's why I'm in Vietnam. That's why I'm working with the investigators. And this is why this is a new form of evil. And like I said, I'm sorry to burst people's blissful bubbles, but this is the reality of spirituality. There is duality in this world. There's good and there's evil. And this is where spirituality truly comes into play, which teaches you discernment and allows you a choice in life that uh, you have to take responsibility for one's actions, and you have to be accountable to oneself, especially as an adult. And you have to be able to learn and discern what side of destiny or what side of destiny you stand on. So um, I guess that's what I wanted to say, and I hope I've answered your question, Dane.
Wow. Yeah, that was a lot to take in.
It is a
Ah,
lot,
geez.
but it was
So,
clear.
yeah,
I'm sure it was as clear as possible.
yeah. No, you were. It was very succinct. Good. Yeah. Thanks for conveying that warning to us about Chinese being in China and being under their control. Geez. So the qigong practice of Falun Gong is, when do you when so you've read all the information about it. When did Falun Dafa start? Can you tell us a little bit about the origin of it and uh,
Yes.
what kind of tradition they started from?
Well, the founder, teacher Li Hongzhi, he founded it from with his masters. He came in and he succinctly created a practice that was very beneficial to the general public. That wasn't hard to understand. It was very just simple and easy. A profound practice is not necessarily complicated. Simple, down to earth, easy to understand is the way he brought the Falun Gong or the Falun Dafa practice. It's got two names, by the way, but it's the same practice. Falun Dafa is more of a universal name, and Falun Gong is more of I guess, a general down-to-earth name, but it's the same practice. And unlike monastic paths of cultivation and improvement, Falun Gong is practiced in society with students marrying, raising children, and pursuing a wide variety of careers, businesses. So as such, while Falun Gong aspires to inner transformation of the self, it nevertheless typically translates outwardly into positive change in the world, insofar that the practitioner becomes more of a patient family member, a more conscientious employee, or a more active member of society. And the founder of Falun Gong, Mr. Lee, between 1992 and 1993, there was only about 200 students practicing. And then just through word of mouth, literally in China, it spread like wildfire to become the largest spiritual movement in China. 100 million people practicing. And
yeah, we talked about that. So I wanted to ask more. So you said Mr. Lee and his fellow masters or his masters, they created this system together? There you said?
Yes, I'm not sure. Yeah, actually, I believe so. I'm not sure, not too sure about the
No big deal.
not a lot has been known about teacher. All I know is that he came out, introduced this practice, and it just spread like wildfire. And
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good. So you said there was 5 fundamental practices that you perform. You said the first one's stretching. Could you tell us a little bit more about the other 4?
Absolutely. 5 exercises incorporated. The first one is called Buddha showing 1,000 hands. So let me see if I can demonstrate it to you. I'm not sure if I can demonstrate to you. People can watch it. Let me see. So basically, I'm not sure if you can see me. But
yes.
You start with the lower abdomen. And what you do is basically you raise in 8 postures your hands, and as you press up, I don't know if you can see me, you press up and you push down and you stretch the whole body and then immediately relax the whole body. So the whole exercise of the first one, called Buddha showing 1,000 hands, everybody, is to unblock those energy channels. So basically, there are 8 movements which you can check out at the website, all free of charge. Unfortunately, I'm sure I can show you completely, but you just completely relax, stretch and relax. So it's a strong stretch and relax. And what actually, exactly. And what actually happens is when you practice, beautiful, exactly. And once you practice the first exercise, you are unblocking all the energy channels. The second exercise is called Falun standing stance, which is an endurance exercise. 4 postures, and you hold for about 8 minutes each. Now, this is very difficult for the first timer. He's like, what are you talking about, Mitch? Are you going to be standing there for 8 minutes? Are you insane? I want to break my arms. You know, I'm like, listen, no pain, no gain. Just like in the gym, no pain, no gain.
Yeah.
So basically, you hold a wheel posture. Everything's from the lower abdomen. For females, for women, the right is always emphasized because in ancient China, in Falun Gong, the right is always feminine. For the left, it's always masculine. With yin, femininity in prosperity, and yang in decline now. So we have to get that balance back, right? To the lotus of love, of unconditional love, which is feminine versus masculine. But in prosperity, right now, it's complete in chaos. We have to bring it back in prosperity. And the reason why it has been in chaos, not to get off too much of the subject, but the reason of the lack of morality. So once we bring morality back into the heart, and that's what I truly believe what 2020 and beyond is going to be. It's going to teach people to become more connected with oneself and with each other through morality, through truthfulness and compassion and tolerance, which that's why I love Falun Gong so much, because
Mm.
that is the emphasis, the practice. Practice comes after cultivating of the heart. If you do not cultivate your heart and cultivate your mind based on being more kind and more truthful, then nothing can work. You can bow all day long to Buddha. You can burn incense until your head bleeds, and it's not going to work until the heart is cultivated and the mind is cultivated, and then the body becomes aligned and free of illnesses, pure. So the second exercise, you hold a wheel posture in 4 different positions, from your eyebrow level to your lower abdomen, above the head, and to the sides, and back to the lower abdomen. That's the second, exactly. That's the second exercise. The third exercise is called penetrating the 2 cosmic extremes, which is kind of a Reiki type of healing, where you are purifying, collecting the energy from the cosmos, from one extreme to the other, and you are purifying the body by collecting it, bringing it inside the body, and removing the bad chi from the body. So basically, if everyone can see, I'm not sure you can, but you get to almost like a namaste position in yoga, but this is called horseshoe. And when you practice the exercises, the beautiful ancient music of the practice that is designed to replace all those crazy thoughts with just one pure, simple thought when you practice it, as you are guided by Mr. Lee, you move for males, it will be the left arm up. For females, it will be the right arm up and then the other arm down. So it's just up and down movements. Single movements, just up and down, as you can see. Just up and down, guided by the actual teacher. Very gentle, relaxed, and to the point of motionless, just flowing up and down by itself. Single movements, right in front of the body, about an inch or 2 away. Single movements starting and then followed by a transition into double movements. So both palms and arms up. Nothing stretching, just extended. You only stretch in the first exercise and then down. So up and down, very gentle, relaxed, and beautiful movements. Once we finish with the single and the double, this is where it gets a little tricky and a little bit of practice, but we're going to bring in the energy that we've collected through the single and the double movements out of the body, and bring the energy inside of the body and remove the bad chi out of the body. Okay, so it's a replacement of energy. And what we do is we bring both hands to the lower abdomen and we spin 4 times. For the right moving in, right palm moving in for women, and the left palm moving in for men, clockwise, 4 times over the lower abdomen, and we conjoin. And as you can see, the conjoin is like an Easter egg, just in front of the lower abdomen. That's the third exercise. The fourth exercise, yes. The fourth exercise is called Falun Heavenly Circulation. Everyone loves this exercise. It's so peaceful and slow moving, and it's almost like a form of Tai Chi, Dane. And I know you're very good. I think you're pretty much almost like a master of Tai Chi right now, and protection. But you know, because I remember you were in the old days doing a lot of Tai Chi, right? But this one is wonderful. It traces the body, and I don't think I can show you completely going down, but you have to basically. Let me see if I can do this. Let me my camera. Oh, no, we don't want the iPhone to fall. Okay, so when it goes over down, so what you do is you what do you call it? Squat all the way down and bring the energy from your lower abdomen all the way down through your inner thighs, around the body, and you move it up the back, through the armpits.
Oh.
Making soft hollow fist, crossing the arms in front of the chest, and open the fist at the shoulders, tracing down the outside of the arms, both palms, until both palms meet in front of the face. Then you turn both palms. So the inside moves out, the outside moves in, and you trace up the inner arms. You trace down the outside of the arms. Now you're tracing up the inner arms, over the head, allowing the palms to just flow off the body, off the back of the neck, and then over the head again. And you just repeat 9 times, and you purify the body. Beautiful.
Yeah.
The fifth one, if I don't, maybe I can show you. The fifth one is, yeah, perfect. This one, I can show you. Oh,
Should have made him the primary video. Yeah.
The sitting one is very beautiful as well. So you sit in full lotus. And it takes time. It took me about 9 months to do full lotus, basically. But this is called Falun Heavenly Circulation. Strengthening of divine powers. This is the 5th exercise of Falun Gong, the sitting exercise to attain wisdom and to strengthen divine powers and inner powers and a clean and clear mind. So basically, as you can see, it's a beautiful movement. And just to show you, you're adjusting the body right now with these beautiful hand movements, up and down. And when I used to share the exercises in the yoga studios in California, people just latched on to these exercises because they're just very peaceful, very profound, and very easy to use, to learn actually, free of charge. So after adjusting the body, you just strengthen divine powers, which is in these beautiful postures, and you hold the postures as long as you can, and from adjusting the body to, as you can see, strengthening the divine powers. And then the last section, if you want to call it, or stage, is entering into tranquility. And no matter how much or deeply you concentrate, what's very important is you do not lose your mind. You do not lose awareness. It's not like transcendental meditation where you just lose awareness of everything. You want to be able to have a clear mind, but you also want to make sure that you are consciously aware that you're practicing and always in control of your own mind. So these 5 exercises, with the philosophy deeply rooted in Buddhism and Taoism of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, basically any universal spiritual practice or religion have these beautiful practices, these characteristics. Together with the exercises and the philosophy, Falun Gong became the life force of the Chinese people. Until it was outlawed and brutally persecuted on July 22nd, 1999, and completely outlawed to this day. That just shows you how powerful. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your basically the entire curriculum. That's awesome. That was so easy to share here. That's great.
That's a great thing about it, and I love that. I love that it is that something that can be transmitted so easily. And I want to speak to our students, or those of us, or those who might be watching who are kind of new to this territory. Of course, people want to practice Qigong for lots of different reasons, and health being one of the big reasons: health, wellness, longevity. Some people are interested in performance enhancement, physical fitness, that sort of thing, for internal martial arts and that sort of thing. And those kind of correspond to 2 different types of Qigong. There's medical Qigong, and there's martial Qigong, and there's also spiritual Qigong. Speaking kind of broadly, these are sort of the broad areas of Qigong. And something that I did in pretty recently was attend a Vipassana retreat, and this is a meditation practice that's taught, that's supposed to be the original teaching of the Buddha about meditation, and it's organized in the context of a 10-day retreat where there are certain certain agreements that you observe while you're there. Like, for example, no speaking whatsoever. And a big part of the reason for no speaking is so that you can't tell a lie accidentally or whatever, because it's so easy. But it's to tell like kind of small lies. So and there are also cups so that you by the door, so if you find an insect you can put it outside without killing it, because it's what makes the part of what makes the practice work is observing the moral precepts, very similar to what you said of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, kind of universal moral spiritual principles. And so for somebody who is looking for a qigong practice, or might be open to a qigong practice, like a spiritual qigong practice that incorporates these sort of Buddhist ideals as well, this is a sort of qigong with that kind of flavor, and it's taught and similar to the way Vipassana and a lot of other Buddhist teachings are done free of charge. Nobody anywhere ever charges money for teaching Falun Dafa, right? It's just that's just or like the way the Hare Krishnas go out in public and feed people. It's just part of it's part of it's built in that it's free to all. So I really appreciate that you are that I appreciate that you're sharing this and making it available for those who that it resonates with, and for those who find that find that it works for them.
Absolutely, I couldn't have said it best, Dane. That if people are looking for just something, a temporary relief, they're not really interested in too much heaviness or spirituality, or extremely busy people. I mean, I know CEOs, very high status people, very busy people, sports people, martial arts, beauty queens, fashion designers. I mean, the most powerful people in the world practice Falun Gong on a daily basis because it makes them feel just so alive. And whether you are, a mother with 3 children, or a big-time CEO, or a fitness fanatic, or a power lifter, or a martial arts expert, or like I said, a very busy person, 8 minutes a day is all it takes to do the first exercise. And you can do it. It's better to do the first exercise, second, third, fourth, and fifth, and don't skip the sequence. But that's what it's been designed and tailored so beautifully by Mr. Lee that anyone and everyone can do it, whether you are Buddhist or Taoist or atheist or Catholic or Muslim. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. It's a universal language of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. I just wanted to play you the soundbite of the actual music and Mr. Lee guiding the meditation, just for maybe 10 seconds, just for people to feel the music and how it resonates with them.
Yeah, let's try that.
We'll see how it goes.
This is the first exercise, but just to share the music, and if it's coming in loud and clear. And you always do the exercises with the music. This is the beginning. And that's Mr. Lee, all in Chinese. It's very soft, very beautiful, very pure. Immediately when I heard Mr. Lee and I heard the music, and music is very important. It's like sound healing, right? It's whatever you feel immediately when you are practicing, you become very vulnerable. That's a big thing as well that captured my intrigue out of every other practice, the vulnerability. Because people nowadays do not like to open their hearts. They don't like to be vulnerable. And when they do, it's a huge amount of surrender and trust that goes into the guru and goes into the teacher and goes into the relationship, or whether it's a business deal or love relationship. And a particular in particular spiritual practices, it's a huge amount of vulnerability, if not all vulnerability. So you want to be able to feel that you're comfortable, that your heart, your deepest parts that you want healed and you want to unblock are nurtured and catered for in the most uh, beautiful ways. And that's what I learned about Falun Gong, is that many people, trauma victims, or I guess we all have trauma to an extent, we're all damaged to an extent uh, until we can be healed. And it's a form of healing
Hmm.
more than ever before. And what I'm saying is that for me, um, the I felt so vulnerable and could feel so vulnerable in and comfortable in my vulnerability, practicing the Falun Gong exercises, listening to the music, and being guided by Mr. Lee, because I felt very, very vulnerable and safe in this particular practice. There's no money involved. There's no cultic tendencies. There's no extreme. There's no force or dogmatic principles. The books are very easy and simple to learn, quite profound in Chinese um, civilization and ancient tradition. The exercises are very peaceful and simple and down to earth. You don't have to learn if you don't want to learn. You can come if you want to come, and if you don't like it, you're free to go. And that's what's beauty about it. It's just very natural and organic. So it
That's
definitely is special.
so that's so beautiful what you shared about the sensation of feeling deeply vulnerable and safe at the same time, and the importance of that for healing on the emotional as well as the physical level, and for spiritual self exploration. And so I really appreciate you sharing that. And um, speaking of, I before we wrap up, I definitely want to make sure that people know how they can contact you if they want to know more about what you're doing or get involved. And where would you send people to learn more about this, to maybe connect with a community of practitioners in their area, and that sort of thing?
Yes, I was trying to put the link in the chat, but I'm not sure I've had the success in that. But
Okay,
I'll just
so
share it with
yeah, you can we can do it after we get off the video too. But
you. Wonderful. I,
Yeah.
I can just share with you while people are listening. The actual website where you can find the video of Mr. Lee teaching the exercises and the contexts where you can practice around the world is, and the books are all for free, is called falundafa.org.
Mm.
FALUNDAFA.org. Also, to learn more about the practice and the origins, and um, faluninfo.net.
Hmm.
FALUNINFO.net. The two books that Mr. Lee has written, the beginner's book is called just Falun Gong, and you can download it on your Kindle or your iPhone on a PDF version or an HTML version at the website falundafa.org. And the other book is called Juan Falun. That's the main works of Teacher Lee. So yeah, it's all free of charge. Explore it, have fun with it, take your time with it, and when you're ready, when the student, I think this is what Master Yoda said. I'm not sure. I think who was the guru from? I'm not sure, but when the student is ready, the master will appear. So when you
Yeah.
are ready to take up on the spiritual practice, and you want to divulge deeper into your core and into your own vulnerability, there's nothing better than Falun Gong to rock your groove, live your dream, and ride your wave. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's for me. Now, people have different things, but it's beautiful. It's a special practice. But I also want to share with you people and everybody that even though we are in a blissful moment, I want to truly have you consider also going to stoporganharvesting.org and
Hmm.
just becoming more aware about the brutality against the Falun Gong and the slander of Falun Gong, and the practitioners that have been suffering at the hands of the Chinese regime being killed for their organs. So yeah, stoporganharvesting.org is very important to also just become aware about and why this practice is persecuted in China, and more importantly, practice the exercises, and feel how beautiful this practice is.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, and I love that. It's my perspective is the more you can learn qigong deeply and broadly. Deeply is it's important to learn something deeply as and in addition to that, learn as broadly as you can. And this is something that it's very easy to try. See if it's something you like. It goes along perfectly well with whatever else it is that you do. And at the very least, it's one more tool to have in your belt as far as qigong practices go. So
And a magical one, magical tool.
Magical.
Yeah, and so for anybody who'd like to also get that kind of soul nourishing aspect out of your qigong practice, I encourage you to explore this, and I'm really grateful to you, Mitch, for all the work that you do, because I know that you've been very passionate and dedicated to this cause for a very long time. And I'm glad that we're all on the same team, spreading the good news about qigong and helping more people to incorporate these practices into their lives, because there's so many people on this planet who need this and aren't getting it, and we've got a lot of work to do. So thanks for shining your light in the world, brother.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I mean, truly, it's been an honor, and it's such a special privilege to come on your show, Dane, and be with you guys and talk to your listeners and your viewers and whoever's listening out there. Thank you. To fail to support the good, to fail to expose bad is unacceptable in my book. And what's important is what is a person, like I said, who cannot make the world a better place. And Bob Marley said it best as well. Inspiration is education. And to inspire people, to motivate people, to encourage people to live better, to feel that life is precious, no matter what you go through. And we're going through some tough times now. I mean, we ain't kidding. The world is not in a good place, but we can still shine the light. And no matter what happens, the light and the good will always triumph over the bad. So with Falun Gong, I've experienced just great bliss, peace, profound inner strength and positivity to last me a lifetime. And regardless of lasting me a lifetime, just get me through the day, and just know it's going to be okay. So thanks, Dane, and everybody, and thank you, brothers. Appreciate everything.
Thank you, Mitch. Yeah, thanks very much for sharing Falun Gong with us. And yeah, it's so easy to learn that we could memorize it probably in the next 20 minutes. You just watch the video a few times, like, okay, got it.
Absolutely. And the
Yeah.
and the videos online, free of charge, and falundaffa.org, faluninfo.net. Go check it out and have fun with it.
All right.
I hope
Thanks very much for joining us. Yeah.
To be continued. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah. Have a good night.